Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, we have the Rockcrusher 2025, part of the Mississippi Gravel Cup, race numero tres, number 3. And here's a look at our course. You are outside of what, Ackerman, near the Tom Bigby National Forest is where this race is taking place. You start in Ackerman. This is where the parking, all the pre-race stuff is at. Start and finish line, you will see here, which is important to note. You got to know the finish. So if you think about it, as you're coming in here, sort of a technical little finish. You come down Quinn Street, you got a right, and then the finish line. Got some railroad tracks here. The way I'm playing this one is I'm first to this corner. If it's coming down to a sprint, I want to be first through this corner because you're not going to move up here, and then it doesn't look too far from here to here. So that's the way I would be playing it, first to the final corner. So we started with the end of the race, or second to last corner rather. Now if we zoom out again, I will say this course, 3,400 feet of elevation gain compared to Oxford, that was like 2,800. So an extra 600 feet. It is 4-ish miles longer, so there is a little more mileage on it, but there is more elevation. And you can see down here at the bottom, pretty sawtoothed on the course. Some things to note, you got some shorter, what appear to be harder climbs. 5.2%. Again, I've said this before, you can't really trust the profile. It'll give you a decent feel for it, but don't necessarily trust that as being exact. So 3%, not killer. Nice little downhill. This is showing it's all paved. It's not showing the gravel hitting until about mile 5. Now, that could be incorrect. Sometimes this does not read properly. This actually looks like quite a bit of paved relative to gravel. So my guess is there's more gravel than what meets the eye here. So don't take that as fact. And let's see what this first. Narrow, steep descent. Yeah, so I would be cautious early on. Anytime there's a narrow, steep descent, it is going to be best to be able to pick your own line, especially since this is going straight into an immediate uphill and then a right-hand turn. I would make sure I am very near the front by mile 2. So I would take advantage of this little climb here. First off, I would position myself well, but I would make sure I am getting into a good position on the downhill. Last thing you want on a down to up like this, and there's multiple over the course of this ride, is to have to brake check, and then you end up feeling the full effort of the climb. You want to be able to carry as much speed as possible. So being on the front or being, top 3 wheels is going to allow you to do that. If you do end up behind someone, try to not hit brakes. Look for opportunities to move around rather than hitting brakes. Last thing we want is scrubbing energy, scrubbing brakes, decreasing speed, and then you have to feel the entire climb. Not good. You want to carry as much speed as you can. So that happens again right here. Pretty steep descent, 8%, 9% it's calling. So that's going to be a fast, you won't even feel this next little punch if you carry enough speed on this. So do not early on get caught in a bad position where you're riding brakes, because the front is going to slow up some and you are going to end up having to brake on this uphill initially, and then you're going to have to accelerate up and over the top, and that will cook you. The people at the front are going to be doing a lot less work. So don't let that be you. So sawtooth style, we got not real technical, it's a little neutral start. It's probably neutral to here, I bet. And then you only have you have this one right-hand turn, going to come at the top of the climb. And then it's relatively flat until you take that left-hander. So again, this says hold on to your butts. So that tells me it's going to be a steep one. Again, you're going to want to be in a good position going into this corner. So if you move back a little bit on this climb, if you sag climbed it a little bit, okay. Use this short little section to move up, because you're going to want to be able to pick your lines on this downhill. Trust me, it will pay off. This will pay off for you. And then you get into this kind of winding section here. Again, you want to be on the front for that, especially if it's fast. So just, actually that's going to be some uphill, so that shouldn't be too crazy. Once you take this right-hander, this is one of the longer sections of downhill, net downhill on the course. So you got 4 miles, average gradient of 1% decline. So that's going to be a nice little section to recover, or hopefully recover a little bit. On gravel, you generally don't get as much recovery. But that's a spot where, you know, none of this looks all overly technical. So from mile like 6-ish to 10-ish, I wouldn't be overly concerned with fighting for position too much. I would be following wheels. I would be recovering as much as I can. We got a short little punchy climb happening here. Don't get out of position for that. 1,000 feet. So what's that? It's going to be about a little under a quarter mile, right? Ish. My math, yeah, under a quarter mile. Max percent 8 gradient, or 8 max gradient 8%. So I would make sure you're getting back into position, because we're going to have this longer uphill. You don't want to get caught out of position on this long climb here. So mile 11, this is going to be a key part of the race. Hopefully the body's all revved up, ready to rock and roll. It looks like we're going to move it to right here. 1.7 miles at about a 3% average gradient. So that's gonna wear on you for sure. 1.5, 3.1, yeah, 8% peak. It ends pretty hard. This is going to be a spot that is this will likely separate the field for sure. You know, if this early stuff didn't do it, this late stuff will. How far? Man, I mean, this early climb is hard enough. It appears that I would want to make sure I've got a good warm-up. You've got these ups and downs. You don't want to get caught off guard. You know, if it started with this downhill section right here, then I would say no need to really be too concerned about getting a good warm-up, because you're going to have 4 miles of easier. But these hard sections, and then this one coming 11 miles in, that one's going to be a toughie. Dig in, power in. You got a downhill right afterwards. So going deeper here, pushing harder to stay with a group will pay off, because you are going to have some recovery. You will have some recovery afterwards, nearly another 3 miles at about 2%. It will be worth it to you to push, because you'll want to be with a group through this section. If you get caught out, if you're solo, you're going to have to push a lot more through this area than you would if you push just a little bit harder on this uphill. So from mile 11 to mile 13-ish, dig in. And I would make sure I'm eating and drinking on this downhill section here. So be kind of planning that out. I would then be eating and drinking here as well, on these easier sections, especially if it's not technical, any non-technical sections. So here you're at the very far southern end of the course. There are some toilet areas if needed. Steep and rutted section, it shows right here. So from at 15.8 to 16, steep and rutted, so be careful, get near the front. That'll come on the recovery side of things. You got a little punchy hill here, shorter, steeper stuff. It seems to be kind of the MO of this course, shorter, steeper, little punchy climbs that are going to wear on you over time. With those, don't get caught being in the wrong gear. So early on, anytime you've got the downhill to the uphill that comes pretty quickly, like right here, mile 17, 18-ish, anytime you've got the downhill to the uphill, and the climb isn't super long, it's easy to just say, get lazy and not shift and just try to grind it out. You can get away with that early, but it will wear on you and you will pay for it later in the race. So make sure you're in a higher cadence, decreasing watts per pedal stroke early on, and that's going to pay off for you. This is going to be a tougher section here as well. Gravel, 3% for a decent chunk of time. Make sure you're in good position. Make sure you're recovering as much as you can. Right here, pretty fast downhill, 4% for 3/4 of a mile, a little over, or almost, I guess. It's tougher when they give me feet and not distance. 24.6 to 25.3. So 0.7, yeah, almost 3/4 of a mile. So there'll be a little recovery. This looks like it's not too crazy through here. And then we've got a net uphill. Doesn't look all that crazy though. So as we're heading north here, you end up in a section where you got aid coming at mile 28 if you're going to need it. You have the highway crossing, so the group's going to slow up together. So if you're with a group, know that it's going to slow up and then it's going into an uphill. So there would be an opportunity if you get tailed off to catch back on because they're going to be slowing up a little bit. But then you're into that uphill again, mile 31, 32, down to up. Make sure you're shifting. Make sure you're not scrubbing brakes. Don't get stuck behind someone. Carry speed. Steeper spot right here. Looking at 0.7 of a mile almost. 3.1%. That's going to be a tough one. So this ride really is characterized by these kind of harder, steeper, stair-steppy style efforts. Some short, quick, punchy stuff early on. You know, shorter, quick, punchy here. Some longer grinds. It's going to be a challenging course. So make sure you are conserving, being efficient on and getting recovery in on these flatter sections, shifting a lot. Not getting caught grinding it out at 55 to 70 RPMs. Make sure you're spinning the uphills as much as you can, and you will save your legs for late. Now, if we look at this finish here, is there anything else? Grip it and rip it at mile 32. I'm not seeing too much on a technical standpoint. Another quick climb. If we get near the end here, so if we look at mile 45 to mile 49.4, so the last 4.4 miles, net uphill, max of 10% gradient, which comes right at the very beginning, I think. It's going to be a tough section here. You got ups, you got downs. It's going to be one that should separate it. So if you're feeling good late, I would probably take advantage. Man, it's all going to depend on how the group's doing, but you got a punchy climb here, punchy climb here. I would probably wait till this section right here, 47-ish, 47 and a half. That's probably the spot where I would want to launch if I'm feeling good. Or even on this very final climb, short and steep. I almost feel like that's not long enough though to really make a difference. So I would probably wait till right here, carry speed from 46 and a half to 47 and launch over the top. That's where I would make my move. Or I would wait, like I mentioned at the very beginning, I would wait until I get into town and then I would just race for this final corner. That would be my spot. Make sure you're not getting caught out in these weird little S-bends right here. Don't get caught being too far back if you're with a bigger group. All right, crew, that's my analysis. 2 loops for the big group, 52 miles for the 100 miler, 51.1 for the 50 miler. Lots of climbing, lots of steep, short, punchy stuff. We got some stair steppers. Make sure you're shifting, make sure you're eating. Take advantage of these longer descents, flatter sections, any non-technical areas to get the food and drink in. Make sure you're breathing. Pre-oxygenate on the prior to the climbs. Have yourselves a great day. Be safe. Anytime there's a steep technical section coming up, make sure you get to the front or near the front so you can pick your lines and you're not scrubbing brakes. And that is all I got. Oh, I guess the last thing I would say, you don't want to get surprised being at the front, like especially near the end here, because there will be the ability to slingshot. If you're in the front, as soon as you transition from down to up, you're going to be feeling the gradient. The people behind you are going to benefit from the draft, and it will be easy for them to surprise you. So you don't want to be on the front. I would probably want to be like third, fourth wheel on these downhills to uphills, enough to where you can get around. You're not going to get blocked in. But I don't want to be the one pushing the wind necessarily unless it's super technical. All right, crew, that's all I got. Hope y'all have a terrific race, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.